And this is Day 9 Daily number 389, where we learn to be a better gamer. Today's topic is going to be LiquidZenio's Zerg vs. Protoss. Yeah! Team Liquid hooked me up with a wonderful ZVP game of Mr. Zenio. And ordinarily, I would focus the entire time on LiquidZenio, but instead what we're going to do is we're going to focus the first chunk of time on the Protoss player's opening because it is so sexy. And then we'll do the second half, bouncing back through LiquidZenio's experience of totally sexy openings. Ha! Before we hop into that, I have some announcements I want to make, and I even wrote them all down because there are so many cool things. First and foremostly, if you are watching me live right now on twitch.tv/day9tv, again, twitch.tv/day9tv, if you go all the way to the bottom, I have a reading list recommendation. People have been asking for books, for recommendations and stuff, so I put two on there. First of all, the absolute must-read for every StarCraft player ever, The Art of Learning. It is about being unbelievably awesome at anything. It's by Josh Waitzkin, who is like a chess prodigy growing up, but they made a movie about him called Searching for Bobby Fischer, and he kind of had this life crisis because he got so much media attention, he kind of wanted to draw away from chess, so he picked up Tai Chi, and then became a world champion at the martial form of Tai Chi. And even though on the surface those couldn't seem any more different, he just describes how the entire process of improving at those is actually the same. So this has been really, I'm actually going to pull it back. This has been super awesome for me, The Art of Learning, just in terms of like thinking about how I think about things. Absolute number one favorite book of all time. Number one, far and away. And because I'm a comic book fan, oh! Get Akira. Get Akira. It is just great. Unbelievably awesome. It's black and white. Black and white comic book. And it's thick, and this is one of 6 volumes, and I own all of them, except 4 of them are on loan. The first one isn't. This is so good, I should actually reread it. It's just really awesome. You can just read the summary that I have down there. Probably top 5 works of fiction in any medium. So definitely check that out. So that's the first little announcement. The second announcement is for the t-shirts from Jinx, from Jinx.com. I want to make sure I get the code exactly right. It's just for this weekend. You get $10 off if you spend $35 or more. And all you have to do is use the code Milk and Cookies, all caps lock. Milk and Cookies. I'll be tweeting it right after the show, probably actually in the first break, so you can get free t-shirts. Or I guess discounts on t-shirts. Yes. And of course, in case you didn't know, Jinx sells Day 9 t-shirts. So if you want to get cheaper priced Day 9 wear, few things celebrate the Christmas spirit like eggnog and being a better gamer. And last but not least, as many know, I've been out of town for quite some time, which means that there have not been enough subscriber mana battles. So Sunday at 7 p.m. on the US server will be a subscriber event. We will be playing things like mana battles, hopefully doing things like the 50% handicap game, hopefully doing things like the FFA backstab special, where alliances are permitted but only one person may win. So we're going to cast some backstabbing. And now let's jump into the daily. So, I want to hop into this here Zerg vs. Protoss game, yeah. This looks like pretty cool, yeah. Yeah. It's a Zerg vs. Protoss. This is Zenio, and this is a guy named Wulong Storm. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this is a Chinese player. I think Wulong is a Chinese team, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. We're going to focus on Mr. Storm for the get-go. Now, in the interest of having my concise, precise, and dynamic daily, we're going to be not coming back to my face, but just discussing the opening as we see it pan out. In general, in this matchup, if you do, I don't know, say an early expand, think about the 3 things you could possibly do. You can do some big warp gate aggression. These are some broad categories, by the way. Do some big warp gate aggression. You can do some big Stargate aggression. Or you can do some sort of fancy ground tech. I'm just going to lump these together. This could be like robos, maybe some fast DT stuff. A lot of people kind of feel the need to put some pressure back on Zerg. Most players feel extremely uncomfortable just letting the Zerg do their own thing. So Zergs kind of have all their timings set up to be able to defend this. So what Protoss used to do was, wow, 1 gate Stargate isn't working. Let me do it harder. Let me do 3 Void Rays and 7 Phoenixes off this 1 Stargate. What, is it still not working? Well, let me go 2 Stargate and get a lot of Void Rays and a lot of Phoenixes really quickly, right? They try to make it more massive. Is a 5 Warp Gate not pushing? Let me try a 7 Warp Gate. Let me try 8 Warp Gate with a +1 upgrade. But the thing that we're going to see Wulong Storm do, which is becoming an increasing trend, is to do things faster, to get less of everything, but to get it out the gate really, really quickly. And the biggest way to do this is to save up chrono boosts and to have some good building timing. So, with that in mind, watch how Wulong Storm's solution is to be faster with doing things. And then the transition that he's going to pop out of it is going to be very, very clever. I don't want to categorize this transition. It's not as generalizable as some of the other things I say, but the basic idea that we're going to see Wulong Storm do is speed quickness of things. Let's take some general numbers and plant them in our minds right now. Direct your eyes towards this little timer here. Around 8 minutes and 30 seconds is when your typical warp gate will be ready to finish up. And that big 5-6 gate push is going to start coming right on out. That's an important number to note here. About 8 minutes and 30 seconds is something that you should just know. That is super importante. So, with that in mind, we now have a benchmark for what is fast and what is normal and what all that jazz is. As another note that I'm seeing Udels and Udels of Protosses do, they build this second pylon before they build this gateway. Now this is seemingly paradoxical. I just said we want to get things faster. Shouldn't we get our gateway up really, really quickly? So that way we can get our cybernetics core up quickly and do all that jazz. Isn't this invading that a little bit? Well, here's a big problem. This chrono boost that's on this nexus, we can't really do much with it if we are supply blocked. So in a sense, what players have discovered is that building this pylon first allows you to start using this chrono boost a little bit more effectively early on, instead of having that usual 90 chrono boost saved up on the nexus. Look at us getting all our probes out. God, we're cool. We're cool, man. Just clever things going on building-wise. The scouting probe, I could care less about him. He's just making sure there ain't no third up. Because again, what is the most important strategic changer? That's the shittiest word choice I've ever had in my life. What is the most important trigger for all decisions in StarCraft 2? Expansions and expand timing. Shall I attack or not? Depends on whether he expands or not. That is always the most basic decision that you should be using. What's the damn word for not the basic trigger, the basic I don't want to say motivation, something like that. The main all your reasons should come back to expansions and when he expands and all that sort of thing. I'm actually trying to look over there, and again, any of you wondering about my book recommendations for Christmas, twitch.tv/day9tv, go all the way to the bottom. Look at him, he's just checking through. And notice where this probe's going to go. Just notice the key path. Is he going to beeline for the main and find out exactly what's in there? No, not necessarily, because he doesn't need to know the specifics of what's in the main. The broad general, where the hell is that third base, is all he's really looking for. Oh, yeah. Alright, let's look at some Chrono Boost. Proby. Being produced. Proby. We have a little bit of Chrono, 32. We have about 38 here. We started a forge. Our forge has not been chrono boosted yet. We're not doing any sort of chronoing. We're actually just sort of getting the forge kind of early. But that is all. So what I want to do is I just want to stare at the cybernetics core for a little bit. Alright, 1 chrono boost. Ba-dum-bum. 2 chrono boost. Right when the first one finished. Da-dum-dum. And a 3rd chrono boost. Yeah. Kind of relatively quickly. Is he going to get a 4th chrono boost? You bet your ass he is. And he gets a 5th. And if he was better with his chrono boost, which he effing wasn't, he would have been a little bit more efficient. But still, notice this. Whoa! 7 minutes and 50 seconds is when that warp gate finishes. All right, here, are you ready? Are you ready? When does he end up normally getting a warp gate? 8 minutes and 30 seconds. What kind of timing on this warp gate what would we use to describe the timing on this warp gate? Fast, really fast. Ha! Ever had questions on how to distribute your chrono boost? Okay, well, cool. Stare at one building and then rewind it back. Little John, do you have what it takes? Yeah, you know what song I'm referring to. Yeah, and it looks like, yeah, no chrono boost spent on this forge. All except once right at the very end that I actually think was extremely extraneous. I actually don't even think he needed that. So basically, no chrono boost here and 5 chrono boosts here. Boom! We have a build order, ladies and gentlemen. So let's actually come back and look at what the hell else was going on. So far, the only point that I have illustrated is that he did a lot of chrono boosts on his cybernetics core. Let's come back, go back to ×2. Yeah, it looks like 1 chrono boost was spent on this. Relatively few. So the way that this build works is we just start churning out zealots right away. We let our gas build up, and we're not getting any geysers. You might say, well, what about things like Baneling busts? What about things like scary roach plays? Well, first of all, Baneling and roach plays are already on a little bit of a delay timing because of this, this hatchery here. But if we end up moving over here and we spot a third base, boom! No fear at all about any Baneling all-in, Roach all-in from a reasonable player. Again, he still could do it. It'll just be really weak. I would say probably the biggest precaution that I would make is to build a pylon here, so that way it can power this cannon. So that way it doesn't end up getting unpowered. That's the biggest precaution I would take. If for some reason I didn't see this and I didn't see that, I would then probably build some sentries. I would then probably plop some sentries down. Hi.
Your probes are under attack. We cannot hold.
And of course, starting to move forward with these 2 zealots. Did lose that first probe, who did a beautiful job of scouting that expansion. Or as Artosis would say, beautiful, beautiful job of scouting that expansion. It's a really beautiful probe here. Beautiful. God, I love it when Dan says beautiful. Every time he says beautiful, I just get all shivery. And, oh, the guy did a good thing. So now we're going to see this attack really work its magic. It's going to pop right on in. And here is, honestly, I'm not going to lie, this is one of my big motivations for choosing this game. It's very easy to use the word counter and believe it. You always hear me say, don't use the word counter. It's not an okay word to use. Because, and then I give normally a huge long reason. Something like that. However, I know a lot of you do this, right? A lot of you will hear things, you know, like, don't believe in imbalance, just keep practicing and try to find solutions. I say that sort of stuff, right? And what you do is you say, yeah, I believe in day 9 when you're in a good mood, and then when you're in a bad mood, you're like, ugh. I mean, I know I should be practicing, but maybe this is imbalanced. You know, like that sort of thing. So here is an example where I want you to break free of this notion of the word counter and start thinking of things in terms of timings and situations. Now here is something to think about. What's better, a roach or a zealot? Right? Most people would say roaches are really good against zealots, that roaches counter zealots. Let me just throw some facts at you. If neither are moving, a zealot kills a roach in a one-on-one. Useful fact to know, right? Useful fact. Aren't you already feeling more confident about zealots? Cool. Still, people would say, what if the roach moves at all? Yeah, then it crushes the zealot and smacks its face down. It's horrible. It's really bad. But okay now, so wouldn't it then be reasonable to say that if the opponent is making zealots, then you throw down some roaches? Here is the reason I hate the word counter. It ignores all the other complex interactions that are going on in a game. If, for instance, there is a situation where your opponent can only make zerglings or roaches, specifically can only make zerglings and small numbers of roaches, if you can get large numbers of zealots, oh, wait a minute. Build the Zealots! Yes, that sounds so great. And this is exactly what happens here. Zenio is actually getting a pretty damn fast Roach Warren. Pretty damn fast Roach Warren, right? He doesn't have a layer up. If we actually just poke around at his bases, he has... Hell, he doesn't have that many drones. He's actually only slightly ahead of the Protoss player. So let's go back to the Wulong Storm Cam. We have the Warp Gate finishing up. We have a Pylon also following suit. The Zerglings, what are they going to do about it? These are +1 Zealots. You don't necessarily have to build this aggressively forward, but in case you didn't know, you actually can get away with doing this, unless he builds way more Zerglings than is reasonable for a Zerg player in the early game to build. So all of a sudden, holy crap, moving on in. Now, many of you very perceptive lads focused on the production tab and saw what's coming up next. Just to note, during these battles, I'm trying to not show the secret up at the top. It's most important to really focus on your chrono boost in any build order. The big mistake, I actually went and watched like 10, 15 Protoss vs. Zergs earlier today, and just looked for one thing. All the chrono boost leading up to the attack, and then the chrono boost after the huge play ended. And what happens is people are very, very clever leading up to it, but then while the attack is going on, it's total loss of focus. So just as a general thing, wanted to throw that out there. Let's come back to my beautiful, wonderful, fancy Zealots. Bum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba. Yeah! We cannot hold. Right? We see some roaches getting made. Cool. And yeah, you know what? These roaches are going to be really good against these Zealots, but the fact is we're getting so freaking many of them. We're getting a ridiculous freaking amount of Zealots. Look at him trying to micro around there. And then suddenly, when we have so many Zealots here, it hardly matters that roaches, if we averaged out all the possible engagements that roaches could have with Zealots, yeah, roaches would be on the winning end of that by a pretty significant margin. But the fact that we can get ourselves into a situation like this, look at that! Look at this crazy Protoss go. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful play! Beautiful Zealot play by Wulong Storm. And ladies and gentlemen, we call that going apeshit, right? Oh yeah. Not that much, but let's actually stop and think for a moment. Let's say you've done this play. Let's say you've done this. You've killed off 3 workers. Maybe you could have controlled your Zealots better and killed off a few more workers. I wonder, maybe killed off a little bit more in the units lost tab. What do we do now? Or I guess a better thing to say is that battle has been going on for about 3 minutes. What would we have liked to have done? What have we earned ourselves? The answer is time. Plenty of time. And we've ensured that this expansion looks pretty free from anti-air. The answer is that you can do almost anything at this point and have a smoother transition. For instance, you could take a 3rd base right now. That's pretty common. Take a 3rd base and Tech 2 Blink and Dark Templar. Very common. But what we're going to see Wulong Storm do, something that just made me feel sexual. We are going to see him go for very fast double Stargate. Oh, yes. That's what he was doing all the while that little attack was going on. Sure, he ended up getting the Twilight Council for some fancy schmancy upgrades. Sure, he is getting himself some armor. But notice that by building only Zealots and taking these extra geysers, look at how much gas he has. Woo! 822 at this point in the game. Terrific play. Just astoundingly good. And all that chrono boost I was asking you about, yeah, it's going on to Void Rays. And look, he's not done with just 4. He is just absolutely not done with just 4. I promise he's not. Look, he builds more later. Look, ignore that. But notice how he just does this aggression, absolutely non-stop. Puts pressure on the 3rd, puts more pressure on the 3rd, and then gets frickin' 4 Void Rays up. Ugh. Crazy, crazy stuff. Yeah, and see, I told you he wasn't done. Now, though, again, you could do just about anything at this point in time, I love that he goes Speed Zealot with Archon. I think that is really smart. It's a lean mixture. It allows him to get all these 6 gateways up. He'll still have some money left over. He still can have a little bit more for some Void Rays in there. And as the big follow-up, well, we'll just see this thing get killed off. And as the follow-up, we're going to see some nice cleverness out of Wulong Storm now that he has himself this advantage. So, when we come back in part number 2 of Day 9 Daily number 389, we're going to finish up checking out Wulong Storm's very clever opening, talking about why it's clever, talking about why I love it so much, and then we're going to switch gears and jump into Zenio's point of view, because this game is actually nowhere near finished, even though Zenio looks like he just took an absolute pounding. And we're going to see how his resilience kicks into play in parts 2 and 3. See you then, beautiful people.